There we go. All right. I'll give it a couple of minutes, just let people come in and join, but the meeting has started. So I think everyone can hear me and hear you and me right now. So if you can't hear me or can't see us, just put it in the chat. But yeah, excited to have a conversation with Seth here.
Yeah, no, happy to be here.
Yeah, you were just saying, yeah, places in, what is it? You said Panama City Beach, Florida.
Yeah, that's where we went this year. We went to Siesta Key this winter, just with my family. This time we went with a bunch of families from my kids' school. So they got one of family chose and everyone else went. So it was great though. We had a good time.
I wonder, yeah, it's interesting, the real estate down there. But I will say in Southwest Florida, where I was at, saw a stat that year over year, inventory is up over 50%.
Oh, really?
Which is just an absolute insane number.
Yeah, in Sarasota, when I was driving around there, the east side, away from the water, was growing fast. Big builders like D.R. Horton, like we see here, and other places, they're putting in huge developments. So the problem is you're 20 minutes away from the water, and if you move to Sarasota, I don't want to be 20, 30 minutes away from water. I mean, the point is to get up and be able to walk on the beach and go biking on the beach and do all those things. So.
Well, in Naples, when I would walk on the beach and just see like, okay, what does some of these houses go for? Because it's like literally full acre lots, big old houses, and it was. I mean, these houses are between $25 and $50 million. And it's crazy. Yeah,
the building lots are out of my budget, let alone with a house on it. So.
Wow.
Yeah, that's in Siesta Key was similar, where they have some of those, almost an acre, whatever, on the island with the proper mansion, and that was.
Have you ever been to Key West?
Yeah, so we go down every year someplace in Florida. We always go almost someplace different, but we went to Miami one year and we drove down through Key West and all that. So I didn't make it through all of the Keys, but the first 50 miles or something. So
yeah,
with some key lime pie and showed the kids the
how is the drive there? Because we took a boat there, which was kind of cool. I mean, it's a shorter route taking a boat, but it's also, if you don't do well.
I'm sure. Yeah, that's more enjoyable. We did. You just drive from Miami out there. It's all connected with nice roads and all that.
Interesting.
I assume it goes all the way to the tip. I think it does.
It does. It's a big party. Key West it's a big party. From the limited time that I was there, that's how it appeared to me.
Yeah, I don't. This might be incorrect, but I think we made it as far as Key Largo.
Okay.
And turned around. So, it was just a day trip. It's one of those things where you got to be out of your Airbnb in the morning, but your flight's not until 8 at night, and you got to do something with the kids and keep you busy. So
100%. Well, yeah, let's jump into this then. It's about 2:04 now. I like to get everybody situated and everything. So yeah, thanks for joining, Seth. If you could just kind of introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and yeah, we'll jump into this.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So my name's Seth Walker. I am a realtor, but also I'm a broker, managing broker here at Remax Concepts. My office is 6600 University Avenue in Windsor Heights. I've been with Remax for most of my career. I think Remax Concepts for the last 15 or so. And then I started at a Remax group. We were at my own brokerage in between. When I say my own, that's not accurate. It was my family's. But, and then I started out at First Realty. So yeah, this is my, what is it? You can do the math. 23 years or so.
Yeah, I think you told me 23 years, and not to make you feel old, but I'm only 27. So
yeah. Well, I had been doing it 6 years when I was your age too, though. I started young. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm 43. So I think I'd have to look back at my license, but I believe January 1st of 2001 was my, when I was first licensed.
Wow, that's incredible. So how did you get started originally?
Well, out of high school, I graduated from Centerville, Iowa, moved back up here to Des Moines. I'm from Des Moines area. I just lived
Hmm.
down there a few years, but went to DMAC, but had no purpose, no direction. Just went there because you're supposed to do something. So went there, and in that time, I was working with my dad doing some construction, roofing, remodeling, odd and end jobs. Uh, didn't really, I knew I didn't want to do that, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So being a little bit handy, I wanted to uh, what they call flip a house. I wanted to buy a house, fix it up, sell it. And I thought that was going to be my career. So I had walked into I think it was First Realty. It might have been Iowa Realty up in Ankeny,
Yep.
and asked for a realtor. And the broker there said, I can get you a realtor or I can help you become one. So he was in recruiting mode that day. I'm thankful. So I said, that sounds pretty good. We were doing some roofing projects, and it was summer, so it didn't take a lot of convincing to get me to try something else or something new. So anyway, started taking classes from there, and became licensed. That was in 2000, so I was 19, 20 years old,
Wow.
and I got my license. I think I was maybe 21, so yeah, I must have been right at 21 when I got my license.
So when you got started then, what were some of your early struggles?
Making money was my struggle. I didn't sell a house my first 12 months in business, not one. I
Wow.
showed houses, did open houses, I wrote offers. I didn't sell a single house. So uh, yeah, I mean, it was a struggle when you're that young. My friends weren't purchasing homes yet. Older people, and I wouldn't either. They didn't trust me to represent them necessarily as a buyer, and I can understand now why they didn't. But it just took time for me to get traction. The second year, this whole time I was doing still that side work because obviously I needed to have some income.
Right.
So yeah, that second year I started to sell a few, and got a few sales under my belt at least. So, but yeah, that first year it was a real struggle.
What type of like activity were you doing to try to get buyers and sellers at that time?
Well, they had back then the big deal was called floor duty. So you
Yep.
get a rotation, and floor duty is simply an agent on duty. So when someone calls or stops in the office that day, that you're the realtor. So and it was actually, if you did that now, you wouldn't get any leads. But back then, it was a legitimate thing, and people would just randomly call the office, or sometimes you'd even get pop bys. So I would. Every agent had the opportunity on a rotation to do it at least once a month, but the older agents didn't really want to do it, the busier agents. So I would try to get their floor duty time
Yeah.
and be able to answer the phone. So I would just sit in the office and hope someone called, literally. Um, Beyond that, I didn't have any money for a marketing budget, so I wasn't doing mailers. I wasn't the kind of guy that could cold call or didn't want to cold call or door knock. That was more of a thing back then. So
Wow.
um, in hindsight, I could have done things better to get started out a little hotter, but that's what I did.
Did you have someone coaching you through like while you were doing some of these things too, like a mentor?
Not really. There was a realtor there that I mentored with a little bit. Uh, we were just totally different mindsets and people. So, but no, not really. The team thing didn't really exist back then. Uh,
Yeah.
that's a somewhat newer invention in real estate. I mean, you would see a few husband and wife teams. I don't know if everyone knows Robin Polder. She was a titan of the industry back then. I mean, she was big time. She's the only one I knew that really had a team. There's a couple others, but it was a totally different climate than it is now, where younger agents can join an experienced team, get a team lead, and and guidance in that. So you're really were thrown into the fire, and you sell or don't. But
Yeah.
there wasn't the resources there are now, as far as classes and instructing and things like that.
So yeah, even moving forward, what was your experience like then with like 2008 through 2012?
The crash, they call it, I guess, was actually a blessing for me. So I got into selling foreclosures at that time. Got a random call from a guy that wanted to see a foreclosure listing. Went out and showed it to him, and the basement was flooded. And my business partner at the time and I waded through that water to check the foundation and do that. And we didn't know it, but this guy liked that we were at least willing to do these things for him. And over the next through 08 through 2011, bought at least probably 50, 60 homes to us. And then we would, since I had the background in construction, we hired a couple crews. So he would buy the houses. My business partner and I would then tell the crews what to do. Here, paint this, do that. And then we would have the opportunity to list the homes too. So we got to sell him the house. He would pay us some to help him remodel it. We weren't doing the work, but get the crews through, and then obviously hire us again to sell them. So
Yeah. Wow.
in a sense, it was a blessing. My business started to grow those years. When everyone else was seeing downfall, I was blessed enough to fall into that. So.
Yeah, that's incredible. And it's like you do something like that for one person and that just spreads like wildfire. So oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, in doing so, we started selling so many foreclosures to him that we actually started working for some of the banks and foreclosure companies. And then I was able to get Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. I can't even remember what they're all called now, but a lot of those foreclosure listings through those years. That's all gone away since, but through 08 and to really 2011, 2012, I did a lot of that.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that's a very unique clientele that you're like assisting at that point too, because like foreclosures and short sales and stuff like that, I mean, it can be a pain in the butt to work with from just putting a contract together, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, back then there were hundreds of them coming through. But yeah, I mean, generally you're dealing with a cash buyer. Not always, but yeah.
Wow. So talk about like you're with your business today, like how has it evolved from, you're being the floor guy to by getting into the foreclosure to like where your business is at today?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like if I look back at my career of 23 years, there's been 4 different, I guess, phases in it. Now I'm more of a traditional just resale realtor. I don't represent any builders. I really don't do foreclosures. Most of my clientele are all past customers or referred to me. I don't buy leads or anything like that. It's all just, word of mouth and grassroots type things. So it's the most enjoyable part of my career I've been in so far as, being able to work by referrals, everyone's preference. Not everyone's in business long enough or lucky enough to do quite yet. But. So, yeah, from there, I just kind of phased into did new construction for a while, worked for a builder, and did those things while I did resales. And then, like I said, now I'm more of just the traditional realtor model of working with someone that wants to sell their house and buy another.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting. And you work with like different type of demographics as well in the Des Moines Metro, correct?
Yeah, so of course I work with everyone, but over the past few years, my father, Sonny Walker, got in working with some refugee communities, and then when he went to retire, I took over. At that point, he joined my team. We weren't a true team; it was more of a mechanism for him to be able to retire with some income and help, serve his customers too. And plus, he didn't he didn't phase out quick, entirely all at once. It was a period of the last 5 years. He's just slowed down and slowed down and slowed down until he's pretty much completely retired now. But even right now, because of this interview, he's doing a showing for me in South Des Moines. So he's still around a little bit. But anyway, through him, I started working with refugee communities and have grown that sense with him, and continue to have that be an important part of my my base of business.
Interesting. And that what percentage of your business is that? How is your business broken up from like different demographic, or like we're past clients, or?
Yeah, well, I would say at this time, it's probably phased into nearly 75% of my business or so.
Wow.
Is the refugee communities and that, so, which has been somewhat intentional.
Yep.
I find it rewarding. They're loyal, and it's something I feel like I'm doing actually for the betterment of the community, not just selling a house, but helping someone to assimilate and become part of a community and become an Iowan, become an American, become to start their family, plant their family seed, or so, whatever, to speak here, and really establish them as part of our community. So
Yeah, and I'm sure
awesome.
when it's being part of that, it probably means a lot to them, and you've obviously seen loyalty from that within those communities.
Yeah, they, it's hard from their perspective to understand it, but they don't. Sometimes when you're moving here, and especially quickly as a refugee, you don't know quite who to trust, so you're wary. But when you can prove yourself as an ally and a trusted realtor's resource of all things, they're that community has been very loyal.
Yeah,
To
well,
us. So
that's awesome. Well,
yeah.
let's pivot and jump into the NAR lawsuit stuff, because I
The fun
know
stuff.
the fun stuff, and a
We
big
haven't had a
reason why.
chance to talk about the fun stuff for the last 4 days. So.
I know, and I like we moved the time back today just due to the fact that you had a brokers meeting about it, which kind of I'm sure gave some perspective on like how, the brokerage, at least your brokerage specifically, is going to pivot or not pivot, or what the thought is. So, with this news that's coming out, what was your initial reaction to the headlines last Friday?
Well, I was driving back from Florida when it hit, so I got a stew in it for about 19 hours while I drove. They say when you lose somebody, you go through those stages of grief, right? Like denial, and then you're upset, angry, and then you're sad, and then I think I've experienced everything with it. And so that's I guess when it hit. When it hit me was on my way home there. So
Yeah.
that being said, to be fair, this is something we've been aware of for quite some time. We still
Right.
don't know completely what it looks like, but we've been doing trainings at our office for a long time for the exclusive buyer agency and these type of things. We didn't know what it looked like, but some of the leadership here that's very involved in NAR and on the state level IAR, they weren't blindsided by it. We've been preparing.
Right.
We didn't. That being said, we didn't know it was coming down Friday or what it would look like.
Yeah. Well, and it looks like, I mean, the big thing is it's like they're not really coming after the commissions. It almost comes like, the lawsuit looks like they're coming after realtors' value, which is such an interesting thing, where it's like, if I think that we all know that and agree that, realtors are worth their value, but, it's going to be interesting to see where the shift goes from, where is the market going to think where that value lies, and how do you prove your value as a realtor?
Yeah, I think part of the hardest part for me with all this has been the narrative behind it, because I may regret saying this, but I guess I don't feel that NAR did a good job of releasing this information to the public, getting in front of it and setting the narrative of what this means. We let the tabloids and media and Facebook do that for them, where it was announced. But, everyone's seen the salacious headlines of everything from buyer's agents no longer can get paid by sellers, which isn't true. I mean, there's truth in it, to home values being slashed because of this. Also, I don't believe is true. You read past the headlines and you can get real information, but the general consumer doesn't do that. So, I wish that part was the narrative, at least the reality of what's happening. And it is a big deal. It's a big change. It's not that it shouldn't have been released or anything talked about, but I think the way it was released and the headlines have missed. They're not completely accurate. So.
Yeah. And I think too, now that there is light on it, it's going to be a while, I believe, before consumers really step into it and feel like, start challenging agents on this. But for you, the big thing that I think the agents are going to have to do is be able to prove their value to consumers. So for you, what does that look like for you? Like what, if a consumer says, hey, Seth, I want you to sell my house, why would I choose you when Joe Schmo down the street will do it for 2%? Let's just say.
Yeah, so we've always had that challenge because of what you just said with listing side. I mean, in a sense, this is totally new, but also commissions have never been set. There was never yes, it used to be 7% and then 6% in the standard, but most people had a flexible pricing plan, and there was always discount companies out there. You always had a choice of competing, or when I would compete, I wasn't just competing against the Remax and Our Realty and Coldwell and Keller Williams agents, but you're competing against the flat fee brokers. You're competing against the discount brokers. You're competing against FSBO.com. You're competing against someone going out to Walmart and placing a sign in their yard. So for 23 years, I mean, that's been what we have to do, is establish our value to that seller. So this is really no different now, where we have to establish our value to a buyer.
Yeah.
Where instead of the listing agreement outlining what we're going to sell their house for, I have an exclusive buyer's agreement that outlines my duties to that buyer and what service I'm going to provide them. And it's up to me, just like it is every other, the other 2,500 agents in town, what they're going to charge to provide that service and what services and what level they want to provide that. So there'll still be people like me that want to provide a more like all-inclusive, full-level, full-service type business model, but there are also going to be realtors out there that fill that void of a discount broker, where they're more just, hey, I'll help you get the offer written and get that out there, but you're kind of on your own as far as the expertise in walking through inspections and navigating lenders and navigating the thousands of things that go wrong after the contract. So,
right.
In that sense, it's familiar territory, although it is quite new, the way we're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like the way that you approach it. It's kind of almost like a business as usual because you've proven your value. But if you were talking to somebody that's, looking to take their business to the level that you've taken yours, like what advice would you give to them, with all this news that's coming out?
Yeah. Well, they should cut and run because I don't need more competition. So, no, I think first and foremost, learn the business, learn how things work, learn about homes, learn about the structure of homes. Don't become appraisers, don't become inspectors, but really learn the business, learn the functionality of how a closing functions and all of that. Some companies, and this is no bash on anyone, is they focus more on just the sales, how to obtain a new buyer, how to obtain a new seller, how to capture leads. All that's important, but you need to know what to do with those leads. And if you do and you treat those people right, you won't have to go out and constantly be trying to get new leads. You won't have to, pay Zillow thousands a year thousands a month for those leads. Over time, you can work off referral.
Yeah,
Which should be the goal of every real estate agent in the long run, in my opinion.
for sure.
Working off cold leads and people you don't know gets old.
How have you then, like, what is, obviously you've built your business to primarily just referrals. What is your post-closing follow-up, or what things do you do after closing to keep these clients engaged with you to then ask for referrals?
Yeah, well, we're here for, you wouldn't believe everything we do. So after storms, for instance, we'll have people in and we'll help them file their insurance claims. When people get in a car wreck, they come in and we help them file insurance claims. We help them file their for their property taxes and things like that. So everything from once you close on a home, you get an onslaught of mail, and it takes, they're getting good in the sense that a lot of these are scams and it's hard for people to tell. So we
Yeah,
encourage people, hey, that first month, just bring that stack of mail in, and we'll look through it and we'll throw away what's not real, and that one or two pieces that might be real will help you identify those. So all of those kind of things. Homes are imperfect, so we have contractors and resources that will help them make the repairs. I have classes and education that I do to teach people how to maintain the home. So before COVID hit, we would go to churches and organizations and that, and teach communities that have purchased a home now how to maintain that home and how to ensure that you're receiving, maximum value when it comes time to sell in a few years.
interesting. That's a really good idea. Actually, I might have to write that down for myself. Yeah. Okay. And obviously, what type of, and how often are you sending mailers out to people?
uh, I do some mailers. So I basically do 2 mailers a year. Sometimes I'll throw in a third, but mailers are very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So I just find a better use for that money than postcards every month and some of these magazines. I mean, they're slick looking and nice and all of that, and they serve a purpose for some agents. But for me, I would rather use that money in other ways. So I send out the first of every year calendar, because that's something that goes on their fridge
Yeah.
and hopefully stays. And then I send out the football schedules in August of the 4 main Iowa college teams.
Yeah. No,
But as far
that's,
as mailers, that's mostly what I do. I used to do a lot of, I would do handwritten letters to for sale by owners. I would just have a stack, and every day I would write 2 or 3 and handwrite them and handwrite the envelope and send them out. That's the only way I could get people to open them. I haven't done that for a few years, but who knows? Maybe again I'll have to be doing that. So.
yeah. I mean, I think obviously you show your value with, especially, you do a good job during the transaction, but after the transaction is almost just as important. And you're having people come into your office and say, "Hey, I need help with this insurance claim. Can you help me?"
Yeah, and that was just one example. But yeah, I mean, we have people that haven't purchased for 5 or 6 years from me that will still help through issues all the time.
Interesting.
And
Yeah,
I
and I
think
think
that's,
especially with this NAR stuff, I do think that's a huge value that somebody could implement into their business to like really show their value into their whole suite of services, if you want to call it that. I don't know if you would agree with that.
yeah, no, I would. I mean, it's difficult because it's slow. It takes time to build a business that way. It doesn't help the new agent other than to say, do this for the next 5 years and you'll reap the rewards as far as the kind of service you provide. So I've seen it at least, and I can point to a lot of realtors older than me that I witnessed that, it looked different. It wasn't the same communities. It wasn't the same items they did, but they really were a resource for their customers for years sale.
Yeah. And I think that's incredibly important, being that resource, being that person that's there for them. And I think you said something like you even have a list of like contractors that you work with and other professionals that you've surrounded yourself with. Have you seen that that's helped in your business as well, having those go-to people that you can refer out to?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think as a homeowner, you maybe experienced this, but it's difficult to get someone in to do small repairs and who to trust. And um, you'll see very small repairs get very expensive because contractors generally don't want to do the small thing. They want to do the big remodel. They want to do the deck. They want to do the all new windows or roof siding. But to get someone to come in and caulk your tub and tighten your toilet and change an outlet, that's kind of where I get involved, I guess. I won't, not really equipped to help someone with a full remodel or addition or something like that.
Right.
But if you need those little things done, locks changed, I keep handymen around that I know are priced fair and that I can trust to work on those customers' homes. And yeah, it's been very helpful because that's just a very difficult thing for a lot of buyers, especially if English is your second language, to know even where to start to look for someone that won't take advantage of you.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Well, I'm going to open up the chat and see if they have any questions for you as well. But this was really great. I guess, do you have any additional thoughts about the NAR stuff, as this progresses, and, advice that you would give to agents?
Well, we'll see. So even tomorrow, I'm in another 3-hour training for it. Um, I don't. I think it's important to note that NAR doesn't establish commissions. They're not saying that sellers can no longer pay a buyer's commission or that they won't pay it. But the way that that's done and the way that it's communicated is drastically changed. So um, there are still lots of ways to structure commissions. It should be known that they're negotiable, that every agent in my office can charge whatever they want, and they each will. But it's not established that this is now the seller pays a 3% commission and automatically they don't pay any buyer's agent commission. They will be doing that. Some, and a lot won't. So no one
Yeah.
knows what the next 3 to 6 months to a year will look like. And once things settle down, in the next year, it'll be, well, we'll just see then. No one knows, right?
Yeah.
So we're all playing the guessing game right now.
100%. And I have dealt with, there are those flat fee brokerages that don't pay buyer's commission. So I've done a couple of deals with those
Sure.
where while we've rolled those in, and, maybe there's a conversation to be had there at some point, if that's going to be the norm. I think that, I think it'll really stay business as usual, because the one thing that I don't know if this problem will be solved is the steering of it. If someone's offering a 0% commission to buyers, how is it likely that house will get shown a lot? Probably not.
Yeah, it just depends. I mean, as a buyer exclusive, if my buyer is paying, then yeah, I mean it's no problem, and I think that's will happen.
Yeah.
But there are also ways, for instance, we can ask for concessions to a buyer. That buyer then pays my commission, whatever I've agreed with that buyer, with those concessions from the seller. We can ask that seller to pay directly. I mean, there are still many ways to do it, and a lot of those sellers are still going to want, because they see the value of paying that buyer's agent, they're still going to offer a buyer's agent commission. It won't be posted on the MLS, of course, but it's still totally legal and acceptable for them to do that. And none of this even takes effect till at least like July, by the way. So
Right.
as of today, literally things haven't changed, but we know they are. So we're
Yeah.
preparing for those. But yeah, I've been using exclusive agency with buyers for years.
And at what point do you ask that? Like, when do you have that signed?
So it depends, but I help a lot of buyers obtain financing and start putting some pretty good work and time in very early on. And
Yep.
I like to go through it with them then and explain the process, and that, here's my fee and I'll work with them, and if you buy a for sale by owner at the time, you might be paying this, or depending on what company we work with that's listing it, you might be on pay a portion of this or all of it, or potentially none of it. So that part really isn't that new. It's just going to be happening more often for sure.
Right.
I assume, at least.
Yeah. Would you encourage people to be comfortable with those conversations now? Because I think it's going to be had more and more.
Yeah, if you're spending your Friday and Saturdays showing a buyer, houses, and when they get off work and you're missing your son's football games and basketball games and stuff to work with the buyer, you better have a real clear communication with them on expectations. And you don't have to work with every buyer. Some buyers aren't going to be okay with whatever you decide to charge or whatever conversation you have, and you might as well get that out of the way before you waste your time. And there are many buyers behind that are happy to work with me, I'm sure. So I think earlier is better for those conversations, and then the more upfront you are, I think the more comfortable that buyer is. They're not going and then wondering what they have to pay or how it's going to work.
Right.
And having those awkward conversations. So I think in July it's required. It'll be state law, and this was true before Friday, that we will have exclusive agency on every single deal. Which,
interesting.
For those that don't know the term I'm using, think of when you list a house, you have a listing agreement, and then you have agency with that seller as well. And that listing agreement outlines the payment, the fees, what you're going to, your expectations, all of that. That's the same thing now you'll have with the buyer. It's the opposite of a listing, but you'll have a written agreement. I have a copy of it now that we're going to start using, 3 pages long, that outlines my duties to that buyer, what fees that buyer and I have come to agree upon, whether it can be a flat fee, a percentage, or anything in between. And so, yeah, it's just like a listing. We go through that listing paperwork really early on, and you should be doing that with buyers now going forward too.
And I want to make a point too to everybody, like the reason that Seth is at the level that he is, part of that is the how quickly he's adapted to this change that may not have any impact at all, but the fact that you've already implemented it just shows, like, top producers, they adapt extremely quick, especially when things like this come up, and where you could just be like, screw this, F this. You're just like, you know what, here's what it is. We need to adapt right now. Here's what we're going to implement. And then, that is attractive to buyers.
Yeah, everything, through 23 years, there hasn't been a change this big, but there's many changes, and you'll see a lot of resistance to those changes. A new MLS, big deal to people. When we went to .loop e-signatures, people, would refuse to use those things. Showing time, all of these, different, listing paperwork and things like that. So, you're better off to adapt quickly and stay in front of it as much as you can, whether you like it or not. It's happening around you, and you need to stay with it.
100%. And I'm that's one thing too that I like to help with agents too, is like coaching them up, like how to have those conversations, because in my world we had to have a lot of unfortunate conversations in terms of setting expectations, because it is a little bit different where we don't have any exclusivity agreements. It's just, you're
Sure.
going off people's words, so you have to have those expectations set immediately. So yeah, I'll open up. Does anyone have any questions for Seth? They can just go ahead and put it in the chat. And I've previously done these, Seth, on Zoom, so the fact that we're on Teams is a little bit different. So
I don't think I've used Teams before, but it seems to work similarly. So.
Yeah, they're all the same. It's offered through our company, and it's actually, I think, as far as I know, it's okay. But I'm a fan. It looks like we got somebody typing. All right. I don't think anybody has any questions, so I'll give everybody their day. I usually like to keep this between 30 to 40 minutes. So, Seth, any last thoughts before I let you get back to your craziness of your day?
No, I appreciate you having me, and I'm sure hopefully our conversation on our age as well, but things change so much next week, it might look totally different once this is actually settled in and we know how things look. But no, I do appreciate you having me, and if you guys have questions, you're always welcome to reach out to me.
Absolutely. I'll send the recording out to everybody and I'll throw your contact info as well. But thanks again for joining. I'm looking forward to the next time we can do something like this, hopefully under some better circumstances with the NAR stuff. But
yeah, interesting timing for sure. So we
100%.
did plan this before that came down, though.
Seriously, we've had this plan for 3 months.
Yeah.
And and then just happenstance that this all comes up in fruition at the same time.
Yeah.
So
all right, well, yeah, enjoy your day, everyone.
take care, my friend. We'll talk soon.
All right, bye.
Yeah.